I want you to imagine that you're paid a visit by someone in the future, but not just anyone. It's you from years down the road. And you're about to share some crucial advice on how to get your wife back. And even better, avoid heart-wrenching mistakes in the process. Now, you probably listen and take notes, right? Because after all, it is you from the future who's wiser, just a little bit. Traveling through time to save you the time, the heartache, the crushing defeat of losing her, to give you that wisdom to get her back. But speaking of love, in this video, I'm talking to a guy who won his partner back after she told him it was done. And there was no chance of getting back together.
When I was first starting out and trying to change, doing the CLCs, she's like, thank you for these letters, but this doesn't make a difference. This doesn't matter. You're going to have to move on. I know this is a grieving process for you, but Travis, we will never be back together.
I'm sharing the advice he would give to his younger self that he wished he'd learned sooner. And at the end of the video, I will also share the most heartwarming and deeply fulfilling words I've ever heard from a client after saving hundreds of marriages at this point. This man achieved something so life-changing, something that he never thought he would ever have with his partner. And now that he has it, he can't get enough. Talk about exciting. Let's jump in. Now, I already made a video about Travis. It contains a controversial hack that saved his marriage when it was already over. I talk about 3 valuable things, okay, Travis did to completely transform himself and his connection with her. You see, every single time I speak to a man that saved his marriage, I always ask the same question at the end.
If we were to go back right before joining the program, and you were to jump in a time machine, you were going to say something to your younger self, back then, what would you tell him? What would you do?
And what's great is I always get a new answer, and it's always gold. If you grasp this and do the inner work, it will spark a new connection with your wife and a deeper emotional bond that fosters trust as the foundation, the base, right? She will open up to you more, which will allow herself to be vulnerable, soft, and feminine. That vulnerability is a key that opens her to want to work on the relationship with you again. Conflict and tension will melt away, enriching your conversations with love and intimacy. And she will look up to you with admiration for you as the leader as you now are. So what was Travis' advice to himself? I want you to listen to this conversation. Travis answers my question, and then I comment on his answer.
If we were to go back right before joining the program, and you were to jump in a time machine, you were going to say something to your younger self, back then, what would you tell him? What would you do?
To love themselves, to be able to just love your own self first, because your body goes through a lot, and the last thing you want to do is not validate those emotions and not beat yourself up over it. You need to validate what you're feeling. If you're having a shitty day, you're having a shitty day. Don't beat yourself over it. If things are fucking tough, like it is when you're going through a breakup, validate it. Because if you don't validate it, you're going to hold it in, and it's going to come back up in a different light. It's all part of that process of just allowing it to just process it and let it go.
Yeah, it's you're speaking to that high advanced emotional intelligence, which is when you're going through the negative emotions, there's an internal chatter saying that I shouldn't be going through this. This isn't okay. And what if you paused for a second and said, I'm going through one of the toughest times of my life, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What do you mean it's okay? It's not okay. We're the ones that puts good and bad on these emotions we experience, right? I shouldn't be feeling this way. And you start to get depressed about your depression or anxious about your anxiety. It just amplifies, right? And so you're speaking to that total radical acceptance, which is like Zen level of emotional maturity.
What we're talking about is emotional autonomy, okay? To love yourself first, love thyself first. This is so important, and so many guys miss this because when you're so focused on what you want from your wife, she's doing this, she's doing that, you're outside focused, you're not focusing on yourself, and she will only love the man that focuses on himself. It's hard to really grasp this just in simple words because it's more of an embodiment, but once you recognize that, like Travis and every other guy that saved his marriage, you put yourself first, right? You meet your own needs. You are building up yourself. You're becoming the man again that she will look up to. She can only look up to you if you're looking up to yourself in every domain, not just with work, okay? In every domain.
Yeah. And you've mentioned this too about like just picturing yourself as a child and being able to just hug them. Like, it's okay. Like, you're going to be okay. Don't tell it to go fuck away. Or I'll tell my dad this. I was just saying, like, pretend like that inner child. And he's like, my whole life I've been just telling it to just leave me alone. I'm like, you need to embrace it. Let it heal. Like, if you had a child in front of you, you need to hold it and say, everything is going to be okay. We've made it this far. You know, you will be safe. You're safe. Because that inner child's like, no, I don't want to. That's unsafe. And it's just like, it's okay. We're gonna be fine. We're gonna breathe tomorrow. We're breathing right now. We made it this far together. The universe is going to provide for us, and we just need to be able to really be okay with that unknown. And I actually have said this to others because you made such a great point of this, is that vulnerability, being vulnerable is true strength. And when you like held yourself close, like this is defensive and this is being vulnerable, and how much power you have being vulnerable, that was another key point for me. Just to see that visually made a huge impact to me, and to really start changing the way that I think what vulnerability actually means.
Now, when it comes to being vulnerable, man, I have so many stories about this, but a lot of guys get this misconstrued, especially if you were raised by a father in the 50s or 40s, whatever it is, and when he was born, that era. And what happens is that you unconsciously are shutting off parts of your emotions because you were told that it's weak, right? I know this has probably been heard before, but you have to imagine that you have to build yourself up, but you also have to show yourself for who you really are, because when you're trying to hide aspects of yourself, she feels that hiding, and that hiding is fear. And she will always not respond with love to fear, okay? Hiding those emotions is fearful. You must learn to open them up. It's almost like that scene in Star Wars.
You will remove these restraints and leave this cell with the door open.
I will remove these restraints and leave the cell with the door open.
And let me clarify that. You having the power of a Jedi to let your mind dictate a positive outcome on your marriage and on your life. The change it does to your wife is no mind trick. When you let go of expectation and your fears and then embrace that deep pain, this sense of stability will cause her to follow you. You see how that works? Listen to how Travis describes it, because it's perfectly placed.
And that was the biggest part for me, was just that deep pain. I think it's been told before, that emotional backpack, carrying that around and just letting it all go and being loving of myself first has caused her to want to follow. And I've seen that, and I noticed you've said that. I remember in the content, where they're leading because they're in pain. They're angry because they don't have any other way to express that emotion of fear and pain and sadness. And I think a lot of it stems from just letting go of expectations,
Right.
letting go of those fears, going into the unknown and being okay with it, being okay with who you are as a person, and whatever comes out of it, whatever, is the path, I'm okay with that.
Travis is talking about fear alchemy, okay? The transformation of fear. You see, what I found so many times is that when you go deeper into the fear, the cave you are fearing to enter holds the treasure you seek. And oftentimes those treasures, the internal growth, the miracle of changing who you are, it can only be done when you go within, okay? And you see what those deep fears are that your wife is reflecting back to you as a mirror, and then you alter them, and then that's when the transformation occurs. When Christopher Nolan rebooted the Batman franchise, he gave it a gritty, dark atmosphere grounded in realism. Now, there's a powerful scene in Batman Begins when Bruce Wayne faces his worst fear, those bats. After years of training in the mountains of South Asia, he's come home. And when he enters the cave that scared him to death as a child, the inevitable happens. He is swarmed by hundreds of bats. Though shaken at first, he immediately embraces his fear. He stands tall and stays calm in that fear, letting it pour over him until there is no fear. And for Travis, sitting in that pain and letting go of the fear of the unknown was a game changer.
We both say this multiple times throughout the last few months is like, I can't believe what connections we have now, and the journey and how excited we are to be together. And it's just like, we forgot about the past. Like, this is a new relationship. This is not us reconciling off the old foundation, the old relationship. We have literally just dozed that old place down, bought a new property, a better view, and then building a freaking amazing home together.
Now look, right now I'm doing stand-up comedy and I'm always looking for my fear. Fear is a compass, okay? And in my head, I thought it was gonna be such a big deal. Like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna go on stage. And I think I'm a funny guy, right? But like, if I go up there and no one laughs at my jokes, am I not funny? It's like an ego death. This is what you're facing as well. You think you're a certain way and your fear is saying, okay, go to the edge. David Data talks about this in his books. Live on the edge. And that edge is when you're in that flow state, pushing yourself. And that's the man she admires. You have to push yourself toward that fear because fear is always an illusion. Now, before I wrap up, I promise to share one thing that Travis never thought he would achieve with his partner. This is the most heartwarming and transformative comment I've ever heard from a client's testimony. When men sign up for the program, the sky's the limit to incredible growth they can achieve. For Travis, well, he developed such a hunger for this one thing that I'm speaking literally when I say it, it was life-changing.
It's odd, Josh, because before I got into the program, I had a certain mindset and a certain way that I viewed reality and relationships. And after this program, I can't remember what I used to think or how I used to think. It's just gone out of my mind. Compared to now, because I'm so hungry for that deeper connection, that it literally changed me for who I am as a person. Going through that content, doing the group calls, the war room calls, doing my own research with other books, that are recommended in the men's group. It literally changed my life and how we talk to each other. It is so deep now. It is something that I never would have thought I would have had. If I would not have gone through this course, I don't know where we would be right now, but I know it wouldn't be where we are today in this level of connection.
Now, I can't stress enough that these life-changing results didn't come for Travis by sitting down and doing nothing. He committed to making change and he put in the work. Now, if you're ready for that, for a one-on-one help in winning your wife back and making real positive change, click below right now to set up a free call with our marriage evaluation team. Together, we can outline the right action steps for you to start taking today, okay? But make sure you are fully committed emotionally, financially, and ready, because we don't take everyone in this program. So we hear your story. Those calls are valuable to you if we do feel like you are, based on your application, able to get on the call with our team. But sometimes we do resource out to other people, right? Like, hey, this would be better if you go maybe see a therapist for your specific issue, whatever the case may be, okay? But regardless, if you are ready, fully ready to make that change, set up a call down below, and I'll see you in the next video.